All right. We're here for Walking with Jesus, lesson 40. And we're in the Sermon on the Mount. We've been going through this for the 4 weeks. This is the 5th week now. We're going to wrap it up, I think, in another week or two and go on to other things. But there's a lot of beautiful stuff in this sermon, and we don't want to go through it too fast. Actually, I could probably, how to be freed from the need for greed. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. So here's our timeline. We're somewhere out there in the middle of that. And so it is, being physical creatures, it's only natural for us to be concerned about our physical needs. In the animal kingdom, that's all they're concerned about because that's all they know. I've got a cat sitting on probably in my window right now, looking about 2 feet away at the birdies saying, oh, if I could just get through this class. Oh, if I could just get through this class. And we're doing everything we can to try to get that cat to leave the birds alone so they can come to the bird feeder and feed and we can enjoy the birdies. But the cat just doesn't get the message. I don't know. Of course, and if we ever did actually train the cat to leave the birds alone, we might be destroying some of the personality of the cat. So I don't know if we'll succeed at that or not. But, you know, we're the animal kingdom, they know eat, sleep, and rest and go hunting. And they're consumed basically with their physical needs. The survival instinct rules for animals because they have no spiritual nature. Now, human beings are distinct and different in that we have a spirit. That means for us, there's much more to life than just life on this earth. So how do we balance between our struggle for survival and our spiritual life? We're in Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 34. Jesus gives us some important clues on how to be freed from the need for greed. And here's our little map, and again, we've seen this. Here's the hill where the Sermon on the Mount, where they believe the Sermon on the Mount took place. Here's Capernaum over here, less than a mile away, and downhill from here. This is up on a nice little ride. It's kind of a pretty place. We'll see a picture here in a minute. Well, money won't last. Have you discovered that yet?
Yes.
Yes. Matthew 6, 19 to 21. Do not store for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But store for yourselves treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So, when Nelson Rockefeller was the richest man in the world, someone asked him how much money was enough. He replied, $1 more than I have. And every one of us would say, well, if we're getting paid in our job, how much money are they paying us? And every one of us will say, not what I'm worth, or not enough. Well, how do you think would be a fair wage for your job? And now if you were the employer and not the employee, you'd say, what do you think would be a fair wage for that person for that job? And the numbers would be quite different. Ron?
You've all heard the, what's that thing called, where it's 100 and some billion or something? There's a line a mile and a half long for them to buy their ticket to get into that.
Oh, I saw some of that last night when they did the Powerball.
Powerball, yeah.
3 won it.
Well, this is a good message.
Different states.
1 here in Florida.
Melbourne.
Oh, 3 people. Finally, somebody's got it.
Yeah.
Somebody in Florida.
Pray for their souls.
Isn't that something?
We'll talk about that a little bit here in just a little bit. Unfortunately for Nelson Rockefeller, when he died, he became no richer than any other dead man that's ever lived on the face of this earth. Think about that. The bumper sticker errantly says, he who has the most toys wins, usually on the back of a Toyota. Well, not always. The fact is that he who has the most toys still ends up with nothing when he dies. You can't buy 1 second of eternal life, even if we were to have all of the wealth in the world. Now, I don't know if you've heard the story about the guy, and I think it was in Texas. He died. He wanted to be buried in his Cadillac. Well, his body and his Cadillac are occupying a hole in the ground somewhere in Texas. But all the wealth that he had with him isn't there. Now, you also heard about the husband who told his wife, when I die, I want you to close out my bank account and put all my money in my casket with me. I'm taking it with me, and I want it with me when I go where I'm going. And so she's promised to do that. And when he died, she wrote him a check. How about you? How much money is enough? How many of you think you're getting enough on Social Security? You think you could use a little more? How much money is enough? How much time do you spend thinking about how to get more money and what you would do with it? I have a list. I have it written down of what I would do if I had the money to do what I want to have the money to do. But, well, once in a while I get to scratch something off the list, but it tends to grow faster than it tends to go. How much time do you spend thinking about how much God has given you and how you can be blessed with it? Does your money own you, or is it a tool for you to bless others? And that is one of the things that's on my list, is wanting to do things with my money to bless others, at least in what I can. Well, the second thing is to control what you see. You see, your eye is the lamp of the body, Matthew 6:22-24. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light, but if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is the darkness? No one can have two masters. He will either hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. You're going to have to take a little pick and choose.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
When it says your eyes are bad, it doesn't mean physically bad. It means that you're looking at evil.
It means that you've been spending too much time looking at things you ain't supposed to be spending time looking at. And that's our temptation. And that is a frustration. It's a battle that we fight. Dr. James Dobson observed that the more stuff we buy, the more it owns us. And he illustrated, he observed that when he went to buy his kids a swing set. He had the money, he was getting successful and focused on the family, and his ministry was going, and so he was not financially challenged. So he could buy them a nice swing set. I don't know if he bought the most expensive one, but it was a nice one. And he brought it home, and he starts reading the instructions. You take this bolt and this nut, and you put it through here, and you put this to this, and you put that to that, and you put this to, and he followed the instructions step by step. And over a period of, I don't know how long it took him, he put together their swing set, set it up, and then he goes back and he'll read the last instruction. The last instruction said, now every 3 months, go back and tighten every nut and bolt on the swing set. That's when he realized that he doesn't own a swing set. The swing set owns him. And I can think of some of the purchases that I've made over the years, and of course, when you first make it, you're all of a sudden, you're very careful with it. I got our iPad, and we're very careful with it, don't want to drop it. Dropped it about a month after we got it, and chipped a little corner. Lasted for quite a while until it got dropped again. And then we replace the screen and we still go on. But you know, all these things that you have, and you're protective of them. You don't want somebody else inheriting your stuff. And so, you get a new car, and when you first get that new car, you keep it so clean and spick and span, and then after a few months or maybe a year or so, somebody gets a door ding in it, and after a while it's kind of like, well, the car still runs. And that's all that really matters. There's just one reason to avoid getting caught up in the sales pitch of commercials. The entire purpose of commercials is to entice the eyes to want what is for sale. And I'm going to tell you real honestly, I'm going to be really upfront here. My challenge is to find ways to entice people to want to study the life and teachings of Jesus through the Walking with Jesus Bible Study Ministry. You'll be happier if you buy this product. You'll be happier if you use this product. You'll be happier if you have this. That's basically the purpose of most commercials. Now, I can present a spiritual side to mine. I'm talking about Jesus. That makes me holier than thou for about half a second. But look at the advertising on TV, and you get on your internet and your email inbox and so forth, and just see how much of it is, hey, you know what, don't you really want one of these? Wouldn't you be happier if you just had one of these? I used to get my little wish list, And I'd get something on my wish list, and I was happy for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'd realize there was something else on my wish list that I still didn't have. And I finally realized that after all, that wish list is okay, but don't get your hopes up on that, because it just will not bring you lasting happiness. We often get caught up in trying to possess more and control more until we find ourselves rendered powerless and concede that we need Jesus to be first place in our lives. Now, Jesus isn't against possessions, but my possessions need to be second to Jesus. Back when I was in Bible college, that was when CB radios were the big fad all across the nation. Breaker, breaker, 1-9, you got your ears on, you know, we can stand all that CB talk, and I wanted a CB radio. But to buy a little $50 CB radio, the cheapest one on the market, that was a splurge for a Bible college student back then, a married Bible college student back then. And yet, I did, but I felt kind of guilty. And so I was bound and determined I was going to use that CB radio as a witnessing tool and a preaching tool. And I did over the period of time. I'd talk to people. They found out that I was a Christian, and I'd try to use it to influence people. I actually helped put a marriage back together and get an alcoholic to quit drinking through some of the friends and influences that I had with that CB radio. But that was quite a splurge for me, and so I wanted to use it to glorify God. Now, possessions will sometimes get in the way of our faith in God and our relationship with Him. Well, I got to go take care of, I can't go to church, I can't go to Bible study because I got to take care of my possessions here. I've got something here, I've got to work on this or do that, and all of a sudden Jesus takes second place. Now, pornography is another example of how what we see can destroy us. More and more reports are heard every day of marriages damaged, children or women violated by men who are viewing pornography. In fact, if you ask Grady Judd or any police officer, they would tell you just about any time they arrest somebody for rape, for child abuse or child molestation, they almost always find pornography either on their person, in their car, or in their home. Almost without a doubt. Now, what's good about those things? And I'm a guy. And I don't know why I'm tempted, but I'm tempted. And I have to fight that battle. And gals, you may not feel the temptation us guys do, but we are tempted. And it can be a challenge. But you need to know that you can't have a healthy relationship with your wife and children when you allow your mind to be filled with false images displayed in pornography. Most of us have been around enough to know that a lot of those pictures are photoshopped and enhanced, and they're not real. Even the ones that are real, that's not my wife. I had a talk with a guy some time ago. Would you want to be married to a woman who would display her body to anybody for their sexual gratification? Would you want to be married to a woman who would cheat on you? Then why are you looking at another man's wife? Oh, she's not married. She may not be married now, but one day she will be, and she's not married to you. It's like one of the guys that spoke of Promise Keepers. I can't think it was John Maxwell, or I think it was John Maxwell. He didn't want the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. He said all that is pornography in a swimsuit. I love Sports Illustrated. I don't want that edition. Delete that edition from my subscription. They somehow didn't get the message, but that's another story. But he said, if I want to see a naked woman, I got a wife. I go in and look at her. I don't need to go looking at other women. And I think that's a challenge we need to work on. Be careful to control what you see. Whether it's pornography or whether it's advertising, some things you don't need to be advertised, or even if you do, you may not necessarily always be able to turn away from it, but you can say, wait a minute, they're trying to entice me into something that's not in my best interest. And you have the power to say no. Oh, this is inside the church that was built on the location of the Sermon on the Mount. Beautiful structure in here, very clean and pristine, full of gold and marble and fancy. The Catholics own the property or maintain it. But it's a nice place to look around. It's a way of preserving that location. Well, Don't worry, be happy. I think somebody wrote a song to that effect once a while back, didn't they? Matthew 6:25-32, Jesus says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or your body about what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and your body more important than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or stow away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? And who by worrying can add a single hour to his life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. And yet I tell you that Solomon in all his splendor was not dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. We can find all sorts of things to worry about and to no good end. Some of us are natural worriers. We've got ourselves conditioned to worrying and fretting and fussing. We don't know how not to worry, fret, and fuss. We worry about whether we have a certain disease. We worry about whether we are going to be able to make payments on that new extravagant purchase that we persuaded ourselves that we needed, a little CB radio, or whatever else it might be. We worry about what the other person will think of us. He's got money to spend on that. We worry about what will happen if we do this or if we don't do that. However, if you think about it a moment, you'll recall that most of the things that you've worried about never came to pass, and the things that didn't come to pass didn't matter. One friend of mine said, don't pet the sweaty things and don't sweat the petty things. And they're all petty things. Alfred E. Newman says, what, me worry? You remember Mad Magazine? And you think about most of the things that you've worried about in your past, did they come to pass? You spent all that time worrying for nothing. And the things that did come to pass, oh dear, we've got a crisis here, you dealt with it and you went on. And you hopefully didn't spend too much time worrying about it. How many things have you feared that never happened? How much time do you spend allowing worry to take away your joy and your peace? We've got so much to be grateful for. There's an old hymn way back from my growing up days, probably older than that, called Count Your Blessings. You know, if you put a sheet and draw a line down the middle, you say worries on this side, blessings on that side, and you start, if you're honest with yourself, the blessings are going to outweigh the worries. It's just a matter of how you want to look at it. When a tragedy or a crisis occurs, deal with it. Go on. It will soon pass and life will go on. Your car got injured in a wreck. Well, you didn't anticipate that coming. You didn't spend time worrying about it. All of a sudden it happened. Now you've got to get yourself healed. If you're injured, you've got to get your car either repaired or replaced. And you get your car repaired or replaced and life goes on. And you don't have to spend time worrying about it. Oh dear, I'm going to wreck the car. Oh dear, that guy's going to run the red light and he's going to wreck my car. Nah, you just go on and enjoy life. Terrorist attacks, we're worried about those now, or well, not really worried about it. It goes kaboom over there. Well, if it affected them, then we go help, or if we can help. And if it didn't affect us, we go on with our life. And don't worry about things that you don't need to worry about. There's nothing to be gained by worrying about anything. After all, none of this is news to God. He knows the struggles that you're going through, the health issues that you're concerned about, the financial challenges that you're facing, family relationship issues, or maybe if you got a fuss going with one of your neighbors. Why would you do that in a place like this? We've got wonderful neighbors. But you know, those things sometimes happen. God already knows about it. And so, yes, it's appropriate to address it to him in prayer, maybe turn it over to him in prayer, but it's not news to God. Jesus tells us that God already knows about the things we're worrying about. Therefore, we can take our worries to him and be quickly freed from any anxiety. Do you really trust him to be in charge of your life. Now, one more comment, and that is to put God first. Matthew 6:33 and 34. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So nothing in this world is as important as your relationship with Jesus Christ. When you die, all you have done in the past will be finished. If you've lived for Jesus, death is no problem. And we know that we're getting closer to the second coming, our own death, day by day. It hasn't happened yet, so I'm glad you're still here, and we can enjoy the day. If you haven't lived for Jesus, death is not the problem. Since you don't know when you will die, it's good to know Jesus now and be ready to go to be with him at any time. We may never have the chance to get ready. Some of us will have a disease and the doctor will say this is a terminal disease and I'm sorry, we can't fix it. Get your affairs in order. Others of us will just, or we'll be driving down the street and somebody will have a meeting, or we'll slip and fall and bump our head. And hey, Jesus, how did I get here so fast? God knows all about it. And if you're ready, it's not a problem. It doesn't bring peace to you. The fact that you know that you're ready, it's not a problem. Well, our conclusion is this. There is nothing in this world worth what Jesus has to offer. There's nothing that is worth worrying about. If it's material, it will not matter after you're gone. Everything else is in God's hands, and you know that you can trust him with your very lives. Well, next week, Jesus is going to talk to us about how to judge others. Yes, we do judge other people. We'll talk about that next week. Trusting God for our needs and how to love others. That sounds like some good things for us to work on. Well, let's stop here.
Would you go back to the page before that? I didn't quite get it. There is nothing in this world that is worth what Jesus has to offer. I don't get that one.
What are the things you want? I want a bigger house. I want a newer TV. I want a bigger diamond on my finger. Or maybe some diamond earrings or a pearl necklace.
But
I want a new car.
It seems like it should say, there is nothing in this world that is worth more than what Jesus has to offer, or something in there. I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, okay, it's a little clarification.
Yeah, because it sounds like, to me when I read that, it sounded like that what Jesus has to offer is not worth it.
Well,
That's what I got out of that sentence when I read it. I was wondering, what does that mean?
Well,
It's like there's a word missing from there somewhere.
This is challenging.
In this world that is worth what Jesus has to
is as valuable as what Jesus has to offer. Does that communicate a little better? Nothing in this world, huh?
There is nothing more. There is nothing more. There is nothing in this world that is worth. It's just the way that the sentence reads.
More
it sounds
than,
like
if we
it's
put
saying
more
Jesus
than
isn't worth
right
it.
here, worth more than what Jesus has to offer. That communicates a little better.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
we may
more
make
than
an
what-
editorial change here.
I don't know. That's just the way. Maybe nobody else saw it. Or
But
felt
this
that.
is where I appreciate your feedback,
Yeah.
because I am not the best communicator in the world. I'm just the one that's communicating.
Well, it's
Well,
just
let's
the way I saw it.
stop here and have some communication questions.